What does justice look like after genocide? In the aftermath of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda, where nearly 1 million people were killed in just 100 days and 2 million others fled seeking refuge, the country faced an overwhelming challenge with limited help from the international community. How to rebuild trust, deliver justice, and begin to heal. My research asks what kinds of justice are possible after mass conflict when international mechanisms fall short, and how do local community-based responses challenge the limits of conventional transitional justice. Two very different models of transitional justice were pursued in Rwanda: the UN's International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, or the ICTR, and Gacaca courts, a community-based justice system rooted in Rwandan tradition. The ICTR, operating from Arusha, Tanzania, more than 500 miles from the Rwandan capital, reflected Western legal ideals: adversarial trials, due process, and individual accountability. But in post-genocide Rwanda, these Euro-American values proved inadequate. Trials were slow and costly, exceeding $1.7 billion, and only 62 people were convicted in 2 decades, despite hundreds of thousands of genocide perpetrators. Survivors often felt excluded or outright unaffected by the tribunal, and it was described as a theatrical stage for an audience that was not there. Despite setting legal precedents, the tribunal was established by a UN grappling with guilt after withdrawing peacekeepers during the genocide, and aimed for a more symbolic justice. Crucially, Rwanda came to understand that legal accountability alone was not enough. Justice in Rwanda had to go beyond retribution. It had to be about healing and reintegration. Gacaca, meaning justice on the grass, brought justice that was once 500 miles away back to the heart of Rwandan communities. Drawing from pre-colonial practices, it was public, face-to-face, and participatory. But it was not simply a return to tradition. It was a response born out of necessity and vision. Usually on village fields, a small group of community-elected judges, at least a third of whom were women, heard confessions and facilitated dialogue. Gacaca empowered ordinary people to ask extraordinary questions. Where was my family buried? Who gave away the hiding place of my children? It was about truth-telling, yes, but also about preparing the nation for repair. With over 120,000 genocide suspects imprisoned, Rwanda lacked the capacity for Western-style trials. Gacaca blended retributive and restorative justice and evolved into a reconstructive model focused on rebuilding the nation. Alongside prison sentences that used the categorization of crimes, Gacaca emphasized confession, apology, and community reintegration. It offered reduced sentences for truth-telling and encouraged survivors and perpetrators to face one another. Unlike South Africa's Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which emphasized amnesty for truth, Gacaca focused on accountability, whether it be community service or prison time, and gave people something the ICTR never could: a chance to be seen, to speak, to begin healing. This bottom-up approach rejected the idea that justice must be imposed from global capitals. It was not a wholesale rejection of global legal norms, but a creative collision between global frameworks and local realities. It tried over 1.2 million cases in under a decade, something no international court could achieve. Gacaca was more than a legal response. It was a chance not for punishment alone, but for reinvention. Today, Rwanda's 8 reconciliation villages house thousands of survivors and former perpetrators, living side by side, sharing land and rebuilding trust not through law, but through radical coexistence. This outcome is hard to imagine through traditional legal systems. It challenges us to rethink transitional justice not as a universal formula of trials and verdicts, but as a human process, rooted in memory, culture, and community effort. In a world struggling with mass violence, war, and impunity, we must rethink justice from the ground up. Rwanda's experience offers a radical lesson. Justice after mass conflict cannot be simply imposed from above. It must be grown from below and reflect the voices, values, and visions of those it claims to serve. Gacaca teaches us that justice must not only happen to survivors, it must be shaped by them. True justice requires accountability, but also imagination, empathy, and the courage to repair.